Computer, what do I do to make this bike trail ready? I'll do anything.
Hello, sir. Based on your test ride, the 2002 S-Works will need a complete overhaul with a stiffer fork, new rear shock, a dropper post, a modern drivetrain, appropriately sized tires, and hydraulic brakes.
But that's almost every part on the whole bike.
You said you'd do anything.
Yeah, I did say that. All right, let's get started. First up is the fork. The stock SID fork was just way too flexy and downright scary at times. So I picked up this 2008 Fox F100 RL for $190. And man, it's hard to find a decent 26-inch fork with a straight steer tube these days. But two problems. The seller said the fork leaks oil and it's ugly white. I just made a major mistake. This older fork is not like today's forks. I took off the lowers and all of the damper side fluid just dumped out of it. And I was just trying to replace the dust wipers and that's it. But it's always more work than you expect. So while the forks are drying, let's install some other parts, starting with the rear shock. This is a RockShox Monarch R, and it was necessary because the Fox shock didn't quite work right despite the rebuild. This was pretty pricey, but I said I'd do anything. Man, that looks so good. Riding this bike without a dropper post was just awful, especially with the funky old geometry. So I'm gonna try to retrofit this 125mm P&W loam dropper, and the frame was designed definitely without a dropper in mind, so I hope it can get along with the rear shock okay. Will it fit and it's gonna completely transform the bike? Although it does kind of contact the shock right there, but luckily this cable actuator is at a little bit of an angle, so that should do the trick. All right, let's keep going. Dang, man, this paint job looks amazing. Since I accidentally dumped out all the damper oil, I had to rush deliver this fork fluid. Hopefully I can get it running good. This fork should be a major upgrade for the bike. It has 32mm stanchions, way stiffer than the stock RockShox 28mm stanchions. And it has 20mm more travel. And I'm sure it has a better damper too. All right, looks like we're in business. But here's where the biggest problem is with this fork upgrade. I lost the V-brake mount. The frame is disc brake compatible, but now the forks are not. And going disc brake isn't that easy because the stock Mavic wheels are not disc compatible. So I picked up these newer Mavic Crossmax wheels that are disc compatible and have more spokes, so they should be stiffer. As for the drivetrain, I never want to ride with a 3x drivetrain ever again, mainly because the chain flops around like crazy. So I'm installing this 11-speed Dior group set that came off my Polygon. This cassette is going to look huge on the 26-inch wheels. So the Saga Squad told me that the 2.4-inch Maxxis tires that I had on were too wide. So I bought these Panaracer XC tubeless tires. I've ran these before and I'm really not a fan of the red stripe, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep them. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now it's time for the brakes. I'm installing these Dior 2-piston hydraulic brakes, but if you've followed me before, you'll know that I believe that these lever blades are flawed and snap off way too easily. So my friends at Flow Motorsports sent me another pair of Pro 120 replacement lever blades. They can flip back in case of a crash and they are much thicker. Plus they install so easy. I won't run Shimano brakes without them. This build is coming together and it looks so much better. I just need to bring it all together and tie up some loose ends, and then we can really see if this bike can actually perform on today's trails.
The time has finally come. It's time for the final test on this S-Works. And I tallied it up and I spent $2,400 on this bike. So was it all worth it? Did I waste my time? Sure, this bike looks like a work of art, but that means nothing if it doesn't ride well. And will it be good enough to become one of my main bikes? Let's go find out. Right away, I could tell that all of my hard work finally paid off. And this XC race machine just ate up the climbs, especially with the new supportive shocks. Right when I dropped in at the top of the Saga test loop, I grinned real big when I slammed the dropper post. Then I noticed there was no chain slap anymore. The smaller brakes did hook up decently well, and this bike is just so nimble. This bike is an absolute beast now. I'm sure I couldn't sell this bike for anything close to what I paid for it, but it's not about that. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers, and when I hit that, I'm building up this Chromag and giving it away.